The second report for tonight is the fire department report for the month of April. They had 156 total calls, of which 112 were rescue and AMS, 22 false alarm and false calls, 6 each of hazardous conditions and good intents, and 3 severe weather and natural disasters. And that's it for the third report. The village clerk's bid opening report of May 18, 2011 for metered fuels, water meters, liquid chlorine, polycatatonic polymer, polyaluminum chloride, polyarthrophosphate, ferric chloride, and bituminous concrete. Bid tabulations are attached to the minutes.
Correspondence.
Correspondence was received from the Fredonia Volunteer Fire Department advising the board that they held their annual meeting and approved the attached list of expected duties and operations for the coming year.
Okay. It was a very nice dinner that the fire department had. Nice ceremony. Public portion. Anybody in the public like to address the board this evening? Okay. Yes, sir. Mr. Munoz?
I have some questions regarding the water report. I don't know if this is appropriate, but it indicated there that I could come to this meeting.
Right.
And I missed the last one. So is it appropriate to
Certainly.
pose a question?
Certainly. Could I ask you one thing, Julio? Could you give your name and address and...
Julio Manino.
Right.
Last name is Fredonia.
Okay. You go right ahead.
Now, I'm glad to receive the report, and I don't always look at it carefully, but there's so much concern over water usage. So I have 6 points. If I can just outline them quickly, maybe you can respond to them. There was some discussion about the potential contamination from protozoa impact. I wonder what came out of that. Is that a concern? Is there an impact from that?
Rob?
Rob?
How comfortable do you feel?
That was done from a source water assessment program that was done by the county several years ago. It's a potential. Basically, that would be agricultural runoff that gets into the reservoir. With the nature of our reservoir and where the way it's located in the watershed, we've never had any kind of issue. We do tests for things like that, and it's never shown up at all. We have to put that in the report. These reports are mandated by both the state and the federal government to distribute to all our customers, and so we have to include that in the report. But there is no concern with that.
Yeah, when I saw potential,
Yeah.
I was very concerned.
And Julio, this is Robert Lancaster. He's the supervisor of the
That's
water
the
treatment
name
plant.
is there.
You're talking to the right person.
Now, the water conservation, I mean, seeing these figures about 500 and so many thousands of gallons and so forth, I noticed about 1/5 was actually used for firefighting, hydrant use, leaks, and backwashing. I'm wondering, since we're all looking at conserving, is that an area that could also be looked at? I mean, that's a lot of, actually millions of gallons. So, if 1/5 is used for those purposes, and usually we're encouraged as residents, to conserve. Is that an area that can also be looked at?
Well, I don't think it's 1/5, because we treat over 565 million gallons of water a year,
Right,
and we probably use, I don't know,
91 million was
Okay.
indicated.
leaks we have very little control over. A leak happening is gonna happen. Firefighting,
Right.
obviously. A couple of years ago, we installed a new backwash system at the water plant that actually cut our backwash usage quite a bit. It's all automated and it's timed and does a much better job. Things we have control over, we do have control over. There's certain things, leaks, flushing, we flush the lines till they clean up.
Yeah.
And, we have very little control over that, but we do save where we can.
Okay, I mean, I understand
Yeah.
that. It's just like, we're all.
These are all good questions. These are
okay?
good questions, absolutely.
Third one, you're talking about a lead level of 14.6. The allowable level is 15. Now, that's pretty close. I know it's not a violation, but should we be concerned?
It's actually more complex than, where the rule reads, we go to the 90th percentile, the highest reading of the 90th percentile. So we take 60 samples and go down to number 6, and that tells us where our level is. As long as we're under, We only had one that was actually over the action level, and we're allowed up to 5. Under most circumstances, lead and copper is not an issue anywhere in the village. There's 1 or 2 isolated spots, occasionally it is, but those people, when people have a level that exceeds that, they are notified and told what simple things they can do. Basically, if you just run your cold water for a few minutes in the morning, you flush your line out, you know. Lead is something we have very little control of at the treatment plant. Lead in the water comes from old service lines and some old fixtures, water fixtures that use a lot of brass and lead in it. So that's why it's one of the least things I have control over, and it's one of the biggest ones in the news over the last couple of years.
But I mean, we could think in terms of education of the
Yeah.
public, to say,
Well, we did-
you know, make whatever efforts are needed. And look, if I got a lead gutter, I'm gonna get rid of it. If I start thinking about the effects of lead,
Yeah, it's really, and we've added some chemicals to the treatment plant that actually keep the lead from leaching into the water. So
Yeah.
our numbers have actually come down quite a bit over the last couple of years since we
it's
started.
just that they were so close, and I
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
you know, we're not in violation, but wait a minute,
Yeah,
that's pretty high, you know.
it seems closer than we are, but we're really.
I'm really new at this, so I
Yeah,
just.
but all right, that's why I'm
thank you
here.
for these, you know, questions, but, on the soil runoff, I mean, you know, often I see pesticide, spread on the lawns, and I
Yeah.
would like to have beautiful lawns. Now, I know there are alternatives, non-toxic sprays. Can that be encouraged in some way, or even, you know, when I have these little flags going up on my neighbor's lawns, and I don't wanna breathe it. And I don't want it to go through the soil and come back somehow down the creek and onto the lake and so on. Is there an alternative that could be encouraged and put out there to say, hey, you know?
I agree, there are organic type fertilizers, a lot of, the only problem is most people are a little more expensive than the chemical treatments. That's something that.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, as a community,
Yeah.
you want
Yeah.
to improve our health or just
Oh, absolutely.
let it happen?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with promoting a greener planet.
It's just a suggestion that perhaps we could.
I think it's a
go in
good
there.
suggestion.
No, that's organic.
I think it's a good suggestion.
I know, Julio, on the county level, they did a cutback on phosphorus because of the fear of phosphorus leaching into the water systems and encouraging green growth in the water systems. I know originally the farmers were kind of opposed to it, but I think once it passed, everybody came into agreement because there were other products to use. And maybe this is the same type of thing that we need to look at. And I don't know what the downside of some of the chemicals they use in the growing process, but I know that with phosphorus, you can take that out of your cleaning products and put a green energy type thing in your dishwasher, in your clothing soap, and everything else, and still have the same results as you did with the phosphorus.
Well, often I hear that Roundup is used and, ground by the farmers and so forth, and then discover what it takes to use that Roundup. But all the slag that is produced and the radioactive uranium and radium and so on. So you start thinking about, hey, wait a minute, now, along the same lines, I know there's been a lot of discussion about drilling waste, and it was mentioned in the report. My question is, are we at a safe distance from this drilling waste, including the controversial and dangerous fracking that, is now in question of whether or not it's gonna go vertical or horizontal? I don't know, I saw a film called Gasland, and it killed me. I mean, it was just, the impact of that fracking waste is incredible. And if there are alternatives, fine. But I guess my question is it close to us? Is it going to impact on the water supply? Are we going to be drinking water with anything from there?
Fortunately, our water supply and our watershed and our system, there's none of that on there at this point. There are a couple old gas wells that have long since, they're working, but they're monitored closely. I drive by them a couple times a week just to make sure everything's under control there. But right now, there's no hydrofracking anywhere around on our watershed. Our watershed is very interesting compared to a lot. It's not just a flat area. It's very hilly. very heavily wooded for the most part. It would make it really tough for anything like that to affect our water supply at this point.
Okay, but we're kind of a safe distance. If
Yeah.
this is happening,
Yeah.
it may just open up entire areas. So I guess my concern is, are we kind of putting a safety net on this,
Yeah.
a safety boundary?
Our state water association just formed a committee to look into hydrofracking, right, and get more information on it, and then try to just see what effect it will have on the water. So it is, we do know about it, and we're out there looking at it.
I mean, I don't want to open my faucet and watch the flame come.
I don't want to either.
Right now-
I don't want you to either.
I wanna, say-
And with that, Julio, the fracking process for drilling has been ongoing. They've always used a fracking mechanism for most of the drilling. It's the fracking that brings in the chemicals.
Okay.
And that's banned in this area right now. And
Okay.
now,
I guess I was referring more to
The hydrofracking.
Thank you. Yes.
I know that there was an editorial in the paper recently where the gentleman that runs the hydrofracking company says there's nothing wrong with it. Why would we use any kind of chemicals when we're trying to make money? You know, and I'm thinking, what's he saying to us?
I mean, I heard someone talk about that, again, from the industry side. It made it seem harmless.
Right.
There's no worse than the stuff you got in your kitchen, to clean things. And I went home with that idea. I felt safe. Then I saw Gasland, and I said, wait a minute, somebody's lying to me.
Mhm.
If you can open the faucet and find methane in the water, something is wrong. Somebody isn't telling us the truth.
Mhm.
And I for the sake of the families, our own health, I think we need to be vigilant that it doesn't come that way. Because the pressure could be high to get that activity going. There's a lot of gas down there, and I'm sure they'll try to which way to do that. Finally, I know you're sampling water source, you're sampling at the source, right, to detect disease-causing microorganism. But if you do it at the source, does it assure that when it gets to the drinking part, that, the treated part, that too is safe? I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
testing is done there.
We do sampling from the source water all the way through the finished water too, till it comes out of the
But
customer's.
it said source only in the statement, so.
Yeah,
that's why I
there's
said-
some things that are sampled at the source, certain things like Giardia and Cryptosporidium, a couple of the big ones that come out. And if those are present in the source, it just increases what I have to do treatment-wise to get them out. And a lot of the stuff that we test for at the source water is taken care of during the treatment process. That just helps us fine-tune our treatment process, so we show if these show up in the source water, then we alter our treatment process a little bit more to get most of that stuff out.
And he tests, he comes to my house and tests water around the village, actually, to make sure everything's okay out of the faucet as well.
Thank you, I'll keep on drinking my water then.
And we, did we win the water award?
But here's the irony. We're giving a proclamation today for the best water in Chautauqua County.
Yeah.
Fine, I'm now committed.
You're making me a star on this one. This is my number, my office.
Okay.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And, we did have a young lady that came to our last workshop, and one of her concerns were the plastics that are being leached into the water systems through the oceans, through the lakes, and the plastic bags that are disintegrating, being eaten by the fish, the mammals, and everything else in the water. We're looking for green solutions to common problems, and we'd like to recruit you as somebody that would be involved in this type of solutions, rather than, I think the research of the lawn care products should take place.
Yes.
And I've got here, email our friend, the chemist from the college, so I'm gonna send her an email to see what her thoughts are and what she knows about it. But, this is the kind of thing that we need to do as a government, is police what is happening.
Efforts been done elsewhere, in Minnesota recently, and tremendous efforts in the greening, and including the concern over the plastic bags. I mean, if you know what's happening in that water, in that ocean, you realize that something has to be done quickly.
Yeah, and as a village, I think we're hoping to take the first steps to eliminate some of the problems. Anyone else like to address the public portion of the meeting? Okay, going on, resolutions.
Whereas bids for the water meters for the public, or Department of Public Works were publicly opened and read on May 18th, 2011. And whereas Jack Bolden, supervisor of the Street Department of Public Works, has reviewed the bid and has recommended awarding the bid to Tie Sales Incorporated. Now therefore be resolved that Tie Sales Incorporated, 36 Hudson Road, Sudbury, Missouri, Massachusetts, Massachusetts hereby awarded the bid for water meters for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2011, and ending the 31st, 2012, as attached bid form, a copy of which attached to be made part of these minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Be it resolved that the following bids, being the lowest bids submitted for the village fuel, is hereby accepted for the prices to set forth below for the village fiscal year commencing June 1, 2011, and ending May 31st, 2012. TPS 1828 Route 20, Silver Creek, is hereby awarded for the bid of unleaded gas with dealer markup of 22, is that 22 cents?
2.22 cents.
0.22 cents plus the current refinery rack price on day of delivery. Low sulfur diesel fuel with dealer markup of 0.222 plus the current refinery rack price on day of delivery, and all-weather diesel fuel with dealer markup of 0.222 plus the current refinery rack price on day of delivery.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passed.
Let's see here. Be resolved that Scott Hennessy, Center Street, Fredonia, New York, is hereby promoted to the position of sewage treatment plant operator trainee at the wastewater treatment plant at an hourly rate of $17.71, effective May 23rd, 2011, subject to civil service rules and regulations and subject to a probationary period of 6 months. This resolution supersedes the resolution adopted by the Board of Trustees on September 28th, 2011.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Be it resolved that the attached schedule of budget transfers pursuant to Section 5-520 of the village law is hereby approved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Be it resolved that Chad Graves, Eric Kierberg, Zachary Smith, and Joshua Seibert are hereby hired as seasonal laborers to work with the Department of Public Works at an hourly rate of $7.50 an hour, effective immediately, subject to civil service rules and regulations. No other benefits are to be given.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, all, one opposed? Passed.
Whereas bids for bituminous concrete for the Department of Public Works are publicly opened and read on May 18th, 2011, and whereas Jack Boland, supervisor of the Department of Public Works, has reviewed the bid and has recommended awarding the bid to Hanson Aggregates of Ellicott of St. Pavilion, New York. Now therefore be resolved that Hanson Aggregates is hereby awarded the bid for bituminous concrete for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st and ending May 31st, 2012, as per attached bid form, a copy which is attached to and made part of these minutes.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, passed.
Whereas bids for liquid chlorine for the wastewater treatment plant and water filtration plant were publicly opened and read on May 18th, 2011, and whereas Robert Lancaster, chief operator of the water filtration plant, has reviewed the bids and recommended awarding the bid to JCI Jones Chemicals Company Incorporated, Caledonia, New York. Now therefore be resolved that JCI Jones Chemical is hereby awarded the bid for the liquid chlorine for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2011 and ending May 31st, 2012 at $419 for 1 ton cylinders plus $750 deposit per cylinder and $41 for 150 pound cylinders plus 100 deposit per cylinder.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, passed.
Whereas bids for polycationic polymer for the water filtration plant were publicly opened and read on May 8th, 2011, whereas Robert Lancaster, Chief Operator of the water filtration plant, has reviewed the bids and recommended awarding the bid to Applied Specialties, Inc., of Parkway, Avon Lake, Ohio. Now therefore be it resolved that Applied Specialties, Inc. is hereby awarded the bid for polycationic, what is it? Catonic. Thank you, sir. Polymer for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2011, ending May 31st, 2012, with a bid price of, what is it? 57 cents per pound.
5.73.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passed.
Whereas bids for polyaluminum chloride for the water filtration plant were publicly opened and read on May 18, 2011, whereas Robert Lancaster, Chief Operator of the water filtration plant, has reviewed the bids and has recommended awarding the bid to Applied Specialties, Inc. of Avon Lake, Ohio. Now therefore be resolved that Applied Specialties, Inc. is hereby awarded the bid for polyaluminum chloride for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2011, ending May 31st, 2012, with a bid of 51 cents per pound.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passed.
Whereas the bids for ferric chloride for the wastewater treatment plant were publicly opened and read on May 18, 2011, whereas Betsy Sly, Chief Operator of the wastewater treatment plant, has reviewed the bids and recommended awarding the bid to Chemera Water Solutions of Lawrence, Kansas. Now therefore be it resolved that Chemera Water Solutions is hereby awarded the bid for the ferric chloride at a price of $280 per dry ton delivered to the village for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2011, and ending May 31st, 2012.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It's passed.
Whereas bids for polyorthophosphate for the water filtration plant were publicly opened and read May 18, 2011. Whereas Robert Lancaster, Chief Operator of the water filtration plant, has reviewed the bids and has recommended awarding the bid to Applied Specialties Incorporated, 33555 Pin Parkway, Avon Lake, Ohio. Now therefore it be resolved that Applied Specialty Ties, Inc. is hereby awarded the bid for polyorthophosphate for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2011, and ending May 31st, 2012, with a bid of 85 cents per pound.
Second.
Any discussion? All in agreement, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Passed.
Be it resolved that the following members were elected to the office at Fredonia Fire Department's annual meeting held on May 17, 2011. John R. Lanphier, Fire Chief. Derek Jordan, First Assistant Chief. Kurt Madum, Second Assistant Chief. Leonard A. Wisniewski, Third Assistant Chief. John Sullivan, Treasurer. Anthony Faso, Financial Secretary. E. Lawrence Barter, Recording Secretary.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Passed.
Be it resolved that the training request of the Fredonia Volunteer Fire Department to send Julius Leone, Tony Fassel, Neil McKnight to the Fire 2011 Fire Industry Rescue and EMS Expo, sponsored by the New York State Association of Fire Chiefs, June 14th through the 18th, 2011 in Verona, New York, is hereby approved at no cost to the village of Fredonia.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passed.
Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees is hereby rejecting all bids for synthetic flocculate opened on May 18, 2011 due to budgetary considerations, and be it resolved that the village clerk is hereby authorized to rebid for synthetic flocculate for the fiscal year beginning June 1st, 2011 and ending May 31st, 2012. Said bids shall be returnable on June 10th, 2011 at 10 a.m., at which time the bids will be publicly opened and read aloud in the Conference Room 1, Village Hall. The Village Board of Trustees reserves the right to reject any and all bids and to accept the bid deemed most advantageous to the Village of Fredonia.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, it's passed. At this time, is there anything else? Okay, I'd like to invite Mr. and Ms. Lancaster to come forward. You get to be a part of it. You're not going to do it? Oh, okay.
I'm not sure she wanted to come.
Now, do you have anyone else here from your department?
No, actually, I had a couple guys working, and I don't, just me.
Okay, that's perfect.
It's not for me.
What I wanted to do was present Mr. Lancaster with a proclamation noting that the accomplishments of his department under his supervision and with the hard work of all the people in his department. And I want to recognize your employees also because they have worked hard to achieve these goals over the years. It's not a first time, and hopefully it's not a last time. Have you heard anything from the regional yet?
No, it's usually about middle of July sometime, so usually when they have that, so. I'm hearing about it, so.
Go Fredonia Water.
And it's kind of ironic because, you know, Mr. Menino had his questions, and
Yeah.
we're here to answer those questions, and it's kind of nice that we.
Perfect.
I know, it's kind of nice that we didn't bring you out in the beginning, it would have been nice for you, so you could have, you know, shaken our hand, got your paper, and got out of here. It's kind of nice to have, you know, some folks have to say, Holly.
It took me a few years to
Thank you.
figure it out, too.
And here's the proclamation. Whereas the Village of Fredonia Water Filtration Plant personnel, under the leadership of Robert Lancaster, has produced the best tasting water in Chautauqua County in 1997, 2004, 2006, 2008, 2009, and again in 2011. In addition, Fredonia Water won the Western New York Regional Competition in 2008, which Mr. Lancaster and his team hope to win again this year. And whereas the Village of Fredonia Water Filtration Plant personnel take great pride in producing clean, great tasting water for our residents, and whereas the Chautauqua County Health Department, through a blind taste test, has recognized Fredonia's drinking water as the best tasting in the county for 2011. Now therefore, the Village of Fredonia Mayor and Trustees recognizes Robert Lancaster and the Water Filtration Plant personnel for their timeless efforts and dedication in producing our outstanding drinking water. In witness whereof, I unto set my hand and cause the seal of the Village of Fredonia, New York, to be affixed on this document this 23rd day of May, 2011. One more thing.
Go right ahead.
I did go up to the mall in Jamestown where they were giving the water test, and they had 4 samples out there. Now there were 7 competitors altogether. Out of the 4, the water in the glass for number 2 was by far the best tasting water. There was no aftertaste. It was clear. It was almost like it had a bouquet. You could smell it, you could taste it. Not that I've ever tasted anything else except for water, but this water did come across as substantially higher quality than the other 4 waters, the other 3 waters that were there. Now, there were 3 other waters that I didn't get the opportunity to test because of the way the testing was set up. But I think undoubtedly I did taste Fredonia water, and it was the best water. And the other people that were tasting the water, I could see that they were writing number 2 on their paper also, saying it was the best tasting water. So, it's outstanding work.
Thank you, Jeff.
I just teach you to stay in the pipes, will you?
Well, that's your job.
No, I have to put it back.
I just wanted to add one thing. I just want to say thank you for the quick response from their local residents that helped find the guy there that tried to abduct that girl. We do appreciate everybody that has their eyes open, keeps the community as the way it is, and does look out for each other. That's great. And for the quick follow-up for the police department, we really do appreciate it, and keep up the good work. And also thank you for John Gullo for donating money for the fireworks. Thank you. And that's it.
Anything else from any other board members? Anything else from the audience? Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good.